All right, so we're diving deep today into migrant housing and all those systems meant to help when folks arrive in a new place. And honestly, you guys sent over a wild mix of stuff this time. We've got architecture excerpts like academic stuff. We've got policy reports, even some political hot takes thrown in.
It's a pretty fascinating combo.
It really is. I'm kind of excited to see how it all comes together.
I know it's interesting because you can look at this from two totally different angles, right?
Yep.
So you've got the actual like physical spaces migrants create,
Mm-hmm.
the buildings, the houses, the bricks and mortar, so to speak.
Yeah.
But then
Yeah.
there's this whole other side, which is like more of a system level view. So like the policies, the programs, all the things trying to help when they get to this new place.
Totally. It's like the two sides of the same coin, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're starting on that physical side, right, with migrant housing, architecture, dwelling, migration. This book, honestly, I was surprised. They're saying migrant housing is basically its own beyond architectural style.
hmm
I thought it'd be more people adapt what's already there, but it's something different, it seems.
It's like they're creating something totally new. And the book uses two case studies, which is really smart, actually, because
Yeah.
they're super different. You've got Zavoj, this village in Republic of Macedonia, which is dealing with people leaving.
Right.
And then Melbourne, Australia, which, that whole city is built on immigration, waves of it.
Cool. Wait.
And by comparing those to the authors, they really show how migrant housing, it's not just one thing. It changes based on where you are, what's going on.
And you sent over the part on Zavoj,
Mhm.
which visually it just blew my mind. Like
Yep.
seeing the old houses versus the new ones built when migrants come back.
Yeah.
The new ones are huge, and the layouts are different. Even what they're built with, it's like a statement, you
Yeah.
know?
It is like almost an announcement, right? Like things have changed here.
Yeah, yeah.
And it shows that for a lot of people, migrant housing isn't just like putting a roof over your head.
Mhm.
It's about showing who you are culturally, maybe even showing off a bit of like the success you've had.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I made it out there,
Oh, yeah. Makes sense.
Especially in Savoy, those big houses that's like, I did well abroad.
And then on the flip side, in Melbourne, the book talks about Southern European migrants, like back in the 50s, 60s, 70s.
Right.
They ended up blending their style with the, what's it called, brick veneer that was already common there.
Oh, yeah.
But they added their own touches, like decorative fences. They had grapevines growing all over. Some even put up like lion statues or eagles.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
The book calls it diaspora aesthetics.
Diaspora aesthetics. It's like even the little things in your house can show where you're really from.
Yeah.
You know, that connection. That's so cool. And it makes you realize home isn't just a place, right?
Right.
It's like a feeling you carry with you. But then I got to wonder, how does that home feeling work when migrants are just arriving? They're
How?
facing so many hurdles, it must be tough.
Absolutely. And that kind of leads us to the bigger system side of things.
Mhm.
Like you sent that Congressional Research Service report, right?
Yeah.
All about what FEMA is doing to help migrants at the U.S. border down south.
The southern border, yeah.
That report really digs into the money, the programs, the whole shebang.
Get ELAT.
Oh, yeah. It gets into the Emergency Food and Shelter Program, so EFSP.
EFSP.
And then there's this offshoot, EFSPH, specifically for migrants that DHS encounters, Department of Homeland Security.
Right.
We're talking food, shelter, transport, medical stuff, like the essentials when you arrive with basically nothing.
Makes sense.
But then, get this, in fiscal year 2023, they switched it up to this new thing, the Shelter and Services Program, SSP.
SSP, huh? Why the change, do you think?
Well, they don't say outright, but
Yeah,
it's got to be because, well, things at the border, they're not what they used to be.
true. Way more migrants these days.
Way more, yeah. Putting a strain on everything they had set up before.
Right. And the report, it talks about how the funding for all this, it's been up and down like crazy over the years.
Like a roller coaster, yeah.
So much political back and forth about how much money to throw at it. Must be hard for the groups actually trying to help.
Oh, absolutely. Creates so much uncertainty.
Then on top of that, we've got that YouTube clip, J.D. Vance, right?
Oh, yeah.
He is not happy with how much FEMA's spending on all this migrant stuff.
I mean, he makes some points.
Yeah, like that it's taking away from disaster relief, even saying FEMA's putting migrants ahead of like American citizens.
Which is a view a lot of people have.
Yeah.
And it's like valid to worry about that.
Oh, for sure.
We got to make sure there's enough to help everyone who needs it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whether it's, people hit by a hurricane or folks who just crossed the border, Tough choices to make.
It really is. But the report, at least it acknowledges that this is controversial.
Yeah, it does.
Doesn't shy away from those different opinions.
Nope. And it talks about how hard it is to balance those different needs, when everyone needs help.
For sure. And then, like on a practical level, the report gets into the whole logistics nightmare of actually providing aid at the border.
Oh, yeah.
Existing stuff just can't handle it, like overcrowded shelters, not enough transport.
You mentioned El Paso, right? Where the shelters are completely swamped.
Yeah, it's rough.
It's a reminder that this is about real people,
Yeah.
not just numbers on a page.
Absolutely. And the report points out this isn't just a border town issue either.
Right.
Lots of these migrants, they move on to other parts of the country, so the need for help, it spreads everywhere.
Everywhere it ripples outward.
It's wild, right? Like we're talking big systems, policies, all that. But you also sent over some research that's like zoomed right in on individual migrants.
Right.
Like that ResearchGate search, those article titles, some are really interesting.
Oh, yeah. Those individual stories, they give you a whole different understanding of how people adapt, Like one that stuck with me was doing family, everyday life in the Lebanese-Australian home. Makes you think about how much family matters in all this.
Family is huge, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
your support system when everything else is new. That article makes me wonder how different cultures, like their families, how they adapt differently,
Yeah, it's a good question. Because there's no one migrant experience, is there?
No.
Every family, they bring their own stuff, values, traditions, ways of doing things, and that all shapes how home gets made in a new place.
Totally. And it's not just the migrants adapting either, right? The place they go to, the society that matters
Oh,
too.
huge.
There was another title, The Construction of Equality, Syriac Immigration and the Swedish City. So it's like both sides have to work at it.
Yeah, it's not just fit in and you're good.
No.
It's got to be a two-way street, right? The society has to become more open, fair, so migrants feel actually welcomed, valued.
And that ties into the mobile urbanism from below thing we talked about, remember?
Oh, yeah.
Those articles really show it in action.
They do. They show how migrant communities, they don't just blend in, they change the city itself in cool ways. New cultural hubs popping up, mixing architectural styles. It's fun to see.
Makes me think of those lions and eagles again, those personal touches. It's all about holding on to who you are while fitting into the new W.
Exactly. It's like that balance, finding it.
Now, you threw in a curveball with that, working with sixes, the Cleaner's Gray Drawings article.
Yeah.
Honestly, I didn't get the connection to our topic.
Oh, right. It might seem out there at first, but it's actually about how we use space told through, like, the act of cleaning.
Yeah.
So cleaners, they know these homes inside out, right? They see the little signs of people's lives, the stories, like, soaked into the walls.
Now I get it. It's those layers, the unseen stuff, how people make a place theirs.
Exactly. And for migrants, well, making a place feel like home, it's even more layered, right?
So much more going on.
New rules, new customs, trying to mix the old and the new, leaving your own mark on the space. It's fascinating.
Really makes you appreciate how important it is to make places that are truly welcoming, Not just, here's a roof, but a place where they belong.
Totally. And that brings us back around to those support systems.
Right, because it's more than just the house itself.
Way more. It's the whole emotional, social side for migrants, too.
We talk money, right. But what about the human cost of all this?
Well, yeah.
Leaving your whole life, people you love, new language, new everything. That's got to be so stressful.
Disorienting, even.
Yeah. Trauma, not knowing what's next, just trying to adapt. It messes with you.
Oh, big time. It impacts mental health for sure.
So it's not enough to just give them food and a bed, right?
Nope. Got to be more holistic than that.
We got to remember these are people, not just some problem to solve. They've got hopes, fears, all that.
Yeah. And while we focused on the tough stuff, we got to acknowledge how resilient migrants are. It's amazing.
Starting from zero, all those hurdles, and they still build new lives, contribute to the community.
Inspiring, really.
Makes you think we could all learn a bit from that toughness, that ability to adapt and not give up.
It's a good reminder that we're capable of incredible things even when things are rough.
So true.
And as we head into the last part of our deep dive, I think it's good to keep that in mind, that sense of hope. There are solutions out there.
Right. It's not all doom and gloom.
There are ways to make things better, more welcoming for migrants, and to, tap into that potential they bring.
Heading into this last part, I'm feeling Kind of mixed,
Yeah.
honestly. It's obvious the problems with migrant housing, all the support systems, it's massive.
Huge.
Right. But I'm also kind of hopeful, seeing how resilient people are, the creativity, the community stuff. It's like there could be good changes.
I agree. I think that's what we got to focus on now, yeah. Like, what are some solutions? What could a good future look like for all this? Where do you want to start?
We've talked a lot about money or the lack of it. But what if we flipped how we think about it?
Okay.
Instead of supporting migrants drains resources, what if it was like, this is an investment?
Oh, I like that.
Because they bring stuff to the table, right? Skills, talents, new ways of thinking. It makes society better.
It's an asset, not a liability.
Exactly. And investing, it doesn't just mean cash, right?
Yeah.
It's education, job training, language help, legal stuff, healthcare, all that, so they can get going in this new life.
And it's also about, like, breaking down the roadblocks they hit, even if they do have the skills and the drive.
Yeah, like what?
Discrimination when they're looking for housing or jobs, or just how complicated all the rules and paperwork are.
Makes it hard to even get started.
Exactly. It's about making things fair so everyone has a chance to succeed no matter where they're from.
And speaking of fairness, housing, right?
Yeah,
We know it's an essential, safe, stable place to live.
absolutely.
But finding that, especially something affordable in cities, it's nearly impossible.
And those temporary shelters, while important, they're not a fix, they're a Band-Aid.
Yeah. So longer-term affordable options, but also like integrated into the community, not just stuck off somewhere.
You mentioned some cool ideas before, like mixed income housing or those land trusts, even co-housing, where migrants and people who live there forever, they live together.
Blending it all, yeah. Those sound promising.
Right. It's not us versus them anymore. It's just people living together, building connections, learning from each other.
And diversity makes places better. Right?
Yeah.
When migrants feel welcomed, supported, they're more likely to stay, invest in the area, help the economy.
Absolutely. Now, changing gears a bit, design matters too, right? Like how we make spaces for migrants.
Yeah. We saw how architecture can be both, like reflecting their culture and causing problems.
So how do we design in a way that respects cultures but also meets everyone's needs?
Involve migrants in the process, get them designing, they know what they need, what they like.
Love that. Co-creation, not just deciding for them.
And migrants, they're often so creative in how they adapt spaces, make them work better, even prettier.
Totally true. And when we think inclusive from the start, it helps everyone.
Like those designs that work for people with disabilities or community spaces that are open to anyone.
It's bigger than just migrants, right? This whole deep dive, it applies to making society more just, more fair, period.
So true. It's about every single person having that dignity, that worth, no matter where they're from, what's happened to them. And our systems, our spaces, they got to show that.
It's about a world where everyone has a shot, a chance to be their best selves, live a good life. Big goal, but worth it.
Absolutely. So, to whoever's listening out there, thanks for being on this journey with us. Hopefully it's given you stuff to think about, new ways of seeing things, maybe even some hope. The problems are tough, but not impossible to fix. If we change our thinking, try new stuff, and work together, we can make communities better for every single person.
And this isn't the end, Dee. It's the start. Keep learning, keep asking questions, and get involved where you live. We all got to do our part to make a world that's welcoming and inclusive.
Thanks for listening.